Hello, health class. This is Mr. Brown. Um, I am going to post a video with a YouTube link that I'll send out the link to all you guys via email. And it's kind of just a mini lecture on our stress and depression and anxiety unit. I'm trying to not have to do the Zoom meetings and all that, but I wanted you to let you work at your own pace. I figured I'd make my talking points, send the video out, and then I'm also going to send out a worksheet that goes along with the depression and anxiety portion of our emotional health unit, and then that will pretty much wrap things up for that. Thank you to those of you that sent back the stress management worksheet. There's a lot of good things on there. And the big one with that is just healthy stress management strategies. I saw things like listen to music, exercise or play a sport or go for a walk. Some of you said sleep. Sleep's good if you're tired, but actually oversleeping is a sign of depression. So you want to be careful that you're not just laying in bed and day and you're forcing yourself to get up and move around and do some things. Some of you said talking to friends. All that is really good stuff. And again, the key is just healthy stress management strategies, okay? Remember, when you exercise, it releases these things called endorphins. It's a hormone, and those hormones actually reduce stress. So exercising is a great way. It's not just, something PE teachers say to try and get kids to exercise. It's actually scientifically proven to help reduce stress. So don't forget about that. But if you haven't sent that stress management worksheet back to me, please do so, because we're going to move on. Also, if you hear weird music and noises coming from the background here, my wife is out in the living room teaching a preschool yoga class on Zoom. So that's what that's coming from. But we're going to move on. And I know these are kind of depressing times, but we are in health class and we kind of have to progress through our units. So we're going to talk about depression and anxiety, okay? And the whole point of this is that stress, if not handled properly, leads to depression and anxiety, okay? So when I do this lecture in class, I talk about, I draw a spectrum, a big line spectrum. And on one end of the spectrum, okay, I write feeling sad. And on the other end, I write clinically depressed. Okay, there's a big difference between being sad, even for a prolonged amount of time, and being clinically depressed. Depression is a disease. It's a mental condition, okay, that's diagnosable by a doctor. But I also think depression and anxiety are buzzwords. Okay, I do the same spectrum with anxiety, feeling nervous and clinical anxiety. There's a big difference between someone who actually has anxiety and someone who's just a little nervous about something, right? Those of you who have struggled with depression and anxiety, you'll be able to attest to that, okay? I use the analogy, I used to get really bad migraines, which is way more than just a regular headache, but people throw around the term migraine all the time, and it doesn't do justice to people who actually get migraines. So I would challenge you not to throw around terms like depression and anxiety, because it takes away from people who actually are struggling with those things. Now, if you actually are severely depressed or struggling with anxiety, that's another thing, and there's help for that. There's ways to treat it. But don't throw it around like a buzzword, okay? It's not fair to people who are actually struggling. So let me refresh my computer here. Okay. On that spectrum that I talked about with depression and anxiety, on the end of feeling sad, okay, things that can cause sadness, losing a game or not making a team or a dog passing away. Everyone handles things differently, and it's important to realize that people have different emotional capabilities, and different things can trigger depression, but there are things that just kind of make us sad for a little bit. Your team loses a big game. Let's see, there's all kinds of things. Maybe you missed out on a sale on something you really wanted to buy. There's little minor things that cause sadness, okay? And then as you progress down the spectrum, there's more things that are more severe, losing a loved one, having a traumatic life experience. There's things that move on down the spectrum. We've all had to deal with these things. I have, I've lost family members. There's been some things that have happened in my life that make you really sad, right? all the way from the very far end of the spectrum all the way to the serious end of the spectrum. But the point is, okay, no matter what happens to you in life, it's all about how you handle it. We've all heard the cliche term, it's not about how you fail, it's how you respond, or things like that, right? So it's true when it comes to your mental health. People have gone through some really crazy, serious stuff in their lives and they're doing fine. Okay, and then there's people who have gone through those things and they've developed depression and they're really, really struggling with it. And it's all about how you handle it. Okay, now, if you're feeling depressed, I don't want this to sound like I'm saying you're fine, get over it. That's not at all what I'm saying. Depression is a real thing. If you don't believe it's a real thing, I'm telling you it is. Okay, it is a mental condition, and the definition is on the worksheet I'm going to send out. Okay, but what I want you to be able to do is distinguish the difference between real depression and just sadness, even prolonged sadness. Okay, some signs and symptoms of depression. Okay, appetite's a big one. If you lose your appetite and you never want to eat, okay, you find yourself not wanting to get out of bed. You don't want to see anyone. You don't want to talk to anyone. You just want to lay in bed all day. Okay, insomnia, not being able to sleep is a sign of depression, but so is oversleeping. Okay, feelings of hopelessness, okay, or loneliness, or that no one wants to listen to you, no one's there for you, no one cares about you. Feeling as that there's no point. Okay, these are all symptoms of depression. Okay, so that's kind of a self-check thing. If you're feeling that, those are things that you might look to and say, hey, I might need to get some help. Symptoms and signs are different. Okay, symptoms are things you feel, signs are things you look for. Okay, signs of depression that you may see in your peers, your friends, your family members. And verbal talk. Okay, if they're saying things like, what's the point? What's my purpose here? No one's gonna miss me when I'm gone. Things like that. Okay, those are signs of depression. A lot of times it's very obvious, but we look past it because we don't think it's the real thing. So those are signs and symptoms of depression. If people are always canceling plans to come hang out, okay, they're always finding excuses to skip out on social events. That's a sign of depression. There's all kinds of things, but you have to be on the alert and look out for these things in yourself and in your friends, okay, because it's important to get on top of them and find management strategies, okay? So that's a little bit about depression. Anxiety, same thing, okay? Spectrum, feeling nervous, clinical anxiety, okay? If you have anxiety and you're watching this video, you know what it's like to have an anxiety attack, okay? Symptoms, shortness of breath, perspiration, sweating, panicky thoughts, okay? Feeling nauseous, like you're gonna throw up, or chest pain. Those are all symptoms of anxiety, okay? Not being able to think clearly, right? If you've been there, you know what it's like. Those are also some signs that you can look for in other people if you think they might be having an anxiety attack. But feeling nervous, maybe you have a tryout, maybe you have a big test coming up, maybe maybe a family member's going through a surgery and you're anxious about it. Okay, there's nervous feelings that can mimic signs of anxiety, but it doesn't mean you have anxiety. Okay, that's very important. It's like depression. There's things that make you sad, but it doesn't mean you're depressed. There can be things that give you those sweaty, nervous butterflies in your stomach feeling. It doesn't mean you have anxiety. And I really don't like it when people say, oh, I'm having an anxiety attack, I'm having a panic attack about my game coming up tonight. Well, no, you're nervous, okay? Don't say you're anxious or having an anxiety attack, because it takes away from people who actually are struggling with anxiety. And a lot of people are. Okay, it's a real thing. So those of you, again, I'll say it again, those of you who are struggling with depression, okay, maybe you're on medication. Those of you who are struggling with anxiety, maybe you're on medication for it. That's a real thing. And we're here for you to support you and care about you. But we all also feel sad and get nervous, and that is a completely different thing, okay? So I wanted to distinguish those two things. So there's some signs and symptoms of depression and anxiety. Okay, so I want you to complete your worksheet, which I'm pulling up on my computer right now so I can reference it correctly. Okay, the first part, you have depression and kind of a definition there. And I'm asking you to recall a time in your life when you felt depressed. Okay, so maybe it's a traumatic life, maybe it's a life event, maybe someone in your life passed away, maybe a pet died, maybe you had to move, maybe something happened to one of your friends, whatever it is. Okay, that's what I want you to think about. This isn't going to be shared with anyone. You don't have to worry about that. When did it happen? List feeling words that described how you felt. In the past, I've seen things like guilty, shameful, scared, angry, sad. Okay, those are all good. How did you act differently when you're really sad? A lot of people shut down. They don't want to do anything, don't want to see people or talk to people. Okay. What helped you feel better, get back to a normal state? This is the key part. What helps you get out of sadness or depressive states? Okay. Now, I'm not talking about clinical depression. I'm not talking about you're in the doctor, you're getting medication. I'm just talking about times in your life when you felt sad. Okay. What helped you get better? For me, talking it out with people, forcing myself to be social and express my feelings with people that I trust. Okay. That's a big one. Some people say, try and get my mind off it by doing something new. Maybe you learn a game or a new skill, or you do something, okay? Getting your mind off it. Listening to music, there's all kinds of things that can help you get back to a normal state, okay? So that's question 4 there on depression. And then signs and symptoms. I just went over a few of them. Signs are things you're looking for in other people. Maybe you have a friend who seems down and keeps canceling and bailing on social things. That's a sign, okay? Maybe they won't eat. Maybe they won't get out of bed. Maybe they're refusing to get up in the morning and get dressed, okay? Maybe they're saying things like, life is pointless or things like that, okay? So there's all kinds of signs out there. Symptoms. It's kind of like the signs, but on a more personal level. I prolonged sadness. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't feel like talking to anybody, okay? I either want to eat all the time or I don't want to eat at all. Okay, those are all symptoms. Okay, now moving on to anxiety on your worksheet. Okay, the definitions there: feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease. 3 things that make you anxious. Someone in my class a few years ago wrote that they get anxious every time they have to go to a court date. That's totally understandable. Okay, maybe a certain family member makes you anxious. Okay, whatever it is, it's personal. How does your body react when you're forced to do one of those things? Panicky thoughts, a racing mind, getting stomach ache, feeling like you're going to throw up. Those are all signs and symptoms of anxiety. Okay, so you can list those signs for number 3. Okay, then there's a YouTube clip. Okay, this is a short film. There's 2 main characters in this film. Okay, I want you to watch the film. You can pause it as you go. You're going to identify which character is showing signs of depression and which character is showing signs of anxiety. There's a boy and a girl. It's up to you to figure out who's who, okay? And then I just want you to write things that you see in the film, in the short film, that indicate that they have depression or anxiety, okay? So again, you're gonna click the YouTube link, you're gonna watch the film, you're gonna identify which character has depression and which has anxiety, and then take notes that show you that, okay? And then that's that worksheet. Hey, anxiety and depression are real things, okay? They're real things, and if you're struggling with that, there's resources here. We can help you. And I do not want to take away from that, but I also don't like the culture that is going on right now, where depressed and I have anxiety are buzzwords for people, even though they don't really have it. They're just feeling nervous or they're sad about something. Okay, so look yourself in the mirror. If that's you, change the way you talk about things. Okay, instead of saying, "Oh, I'm depressed," when you're really not, just say, "Man, this is really bothering me," or whatever it is. Okay, because there are people walking our hallways, in our groups at Ferris who have serious depression and anxiety, and it probably doesn't make them feel very good when people are just throwing around the term like it's nothing. Okay, so that's kind of my message for today. Let's see, that's about a 15-minute video. Just watch this video of me, fill out your worksheet. Okay, if you have any questions, email me back. I'll be sending out this email shortly when I'm done here. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope you're all doing well. You know, I read something the other day that says if you don't come out of this quarantine with a new skill, reached a new goal, or have done something for the better for yourself, you didn't take advantage of it. Okay, even at home, there's things you can do to make yourself a better person, whether it's learning something new, helping someone out, you know, anything. Okay, so challenge yourself to really grow from this somehow. Email me if you have questions, comments, concerns, ideas, need some guidance on something. I'm here to help you. All right, take care.